I shrugged and led the way back downstairs. We entered the kitchen and crossed to the utility room. It was very small, with plain brick walls and just enough room for the washing machine, a sink, and a rack of shelves. I pointed to a plain wooden door. "That goes into the cellar," I announced. "It looks just like a cupboard," said Ricky, disappointed. "It doesn't look very spooky." "Our cellar is just a storage place," I explained. "Not a proper room. I guess that's why I forgot all about it." I opened the cellar door and pulled it toward me. Reaching inside, I flicked on a light. 10 wooden steps led down into the musty room. The others followed me. Herman's eyes widened with curiosity. The cellar looked the same as it always did. It was about 4 meters square. There were no windows because the room was underground. An air vent wired in the ceiling near the light. Whenever the light was turned on, the fan in the vent clicked on too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any air to breathe and you'd die. Well, that's what Dad had told me. The walls were bare brick and Dad had drilled holes into them so he could pull up shelves for his tools and wine collection. The concrete floor was piled high with boxes of papers. The boxes were sealed with masking tape to keep out insects and cockroaches. "That's all Dad's business stuff," I said, sounding like a tour guide. "And that's his wine. I've never seen so many bottles." Ricky grinned. "Is your dad going to drink all that?" "My parents gave me a sip of wine at the wedding once," Antonin told us. She poked out her tongue. "It tastes really sour." "Dad keeps the wine down here because it's very cool," I commented. Then I realized something particular. If it was so cool, why was I sweating? I stared around the empty space, my heart speeding up. But Herman's ghost meter just kept humming. "Nothing," groaned Antonin. "Your ghost meter doesn't work, Herman?" "It does work," he snapped. "It's just that there aren't any ghosts for the ghost meter to pick up." "Maybe it wasn't a ghost that took the necklaces," Ricky wondered aloud. "You mean it was a real human burglar?" I asked with a shiver. "No, maybe it was." He hesitated and shoved his hands in his pockets. "Well, I was thinking it might have been some kind of animal." Antonin almost choked on her laughter. Ricky, animals don't wear necklaces." "I know that," he blushed. "What I meant was maybe it was some weird kinds of mutant creature. Half animal, half something else." I murmured. "Are there such things?" Herman nodded gravely. "Don't you remember what Angus So told us about the frogster?" My eyes bulged. Angus was always making up Hyger stories. He should send them in to Mr. Midnight. The frogster was a giant frog, Herman explained. A mutton frog that grew to a giant size, the height of a man. Its legs were enormously powerful. They could pulverize anyone who stood in its path. Antonin pushed him away. Angus stories are crazy, she said angrily. Frogs are frogs. There's no such thing as a frogster. I think you are a mutton girl, Herman bellowed. You're not a fong, Antonin. You are a fongster. They were still yelling and arguing when their lights suddenly flickered. All Dad's wine bottles began rattling in their racks. They sounded like teeth chattering. Glass teeth! What's happening? Ricky gasped wide-eyed. I screamed and pointed at the ghost meter. Some of the wires were twitching. Then they began wriggling and waving. They were like little black octopus arms. Herman stared at them in horror. His hands were shaking so much with fear that the ghost meter slipped from his grasp and smashed into pieces as it hit the floor. We knew we were no longer alone,